It is day 275 of the second Trump administration. Right now, hundreds of thousands of American federal workers are going unpaid, and many of them are still going to work every day. Over the weekend, we saw a historically huge protest against the president. Of course, it was called the No Kings movement. And with all of that going on, the president is reportedly trying to get the Justice Department to now pay him $230 million in taxpayer money. Yes, this is happening. According to the New York Times, the president filed administrative complaints with the department related to previous investigations involving him, including the Mar-a-Lago search for classified documents. The department then will decide to either settle those complaints, meaning pay, or go to court. But of course, in this case, the people making those decisions in the Department of Justice are Donald Trump's handpicked DOJ leaders, some of whom were his personal lawyers during those investigations. Experts say it would be a massive conflict of interest. And as the Times reports, compensation is typically covered by the taxpayers. Two people familiar with the claims told the Times he has not been paid yet, but he does expect to be. A source familiar confirmed the existence of Trump's claims to MSNBC. The DOJ had no comment on the status of those claims. But here's what the president had to say about it earlier this evening.
The Justice Department, are you asking them to pay you compensation for the federal investigations that happened to you? And how much are you asking for?
Well, I guess they probably owe me a lot of money for that. Probably, yeah, that's true. That's very interesting. As far as all of the litigation and everything that's been involved, yeah, they probably owe me a lot of money. But if I get money from our country, I'll do something nice with it, like give it to charity or give it to the White House while we restore the White House.
Meanwhile, Trump is literally demolishing part of the White House to make room for his new ballroom. At last count, the price tag will be $250 million, and it will be paid for by Trump and private donors, many of whom are big corporations, which begs the question, what are they getting in return? And even some Republicans are openly admitting that building a ballroom during a government shutdown is not a great look.
We've got staff here that are taking out loans, no interest loans to pay their bills while they're not getting paid, that sort of stuff. I just think it's bad optics.
Meanwhile, there are signs Republicans are starting to feel the heat of the shutdown. A new Reuters poll shows 50% of Americans are blaming the GOP compared to 43% who blame Democrats. Maybe that is why Politico is reporting Republicans are getting ready to map out a possible Obamacare extension. Right now, Democratic Senator Ed Merkley of Oregon is holding the Senate floor. I want to show you a live look right now. The senator says he plans to speak through the night, warning about Trump's grave threats to democracy and about his OMB director, who we now know very well, Russ Vought. Earlier today, the president singled out Vought for his work firing people and cutting programs. Watch this.
I will say this, that we have Darth Vader. You know Darth Vader, right? Darth Vader is a man who, I think he's sitting right. Is that Darth? Stand up, please, Darth Vader. Stand up. Does everybody know? They call him Darth Vader. I call him a fine man. But he's cutting Democrat priorities, and they're never going to get him back. And they've caused us, and they've really allowed us to do it. And by the way, thank you. You're doing a great job, I have to tell you. So, really a great job.
A quick reminder, in case you are not familiar with Star Wars, Darth Vader was the bad guy. With that, let's get smarter. With the help of our leadoff panel tonight, Jeff Mason is here, White House correspondent for Reuters. Sam Stein is back again, managing editor for The Bulwark and an MSNBC political contributor. And former Republican Congressman David Jolly, he is running for Florida governor as a Democrat as we speak. Jeff, I turn to you first. The president is not even denying that he's demanding $230 million that would be taxpayer money from the Department of Justice. Can you explain what are we missing here?
I don't have an answer to that, Steph, in terms of what you're missing. What I can tell you is that this is consistent with how the president has dealt with virtually everything related to the investigations, related to grievances that he has from both his first term and the 4-year period between the times that he was in the White House. And that has gone from everything to his broad governing approach and how he has taken retribution on enemies, perceived enemies, as well as institutions that he doesn't like. And now he controls the Justice Department. He's obviously used the Justice Department in ways that other presidents have not. And now he's apparently wanting money back as well. Or I shouldn't even say back, wanting money as a reward or as compensation for what he believes he went through. It's consistent with how he governs. It's consistent with how he has broadly approached his second term.
My goodness. David, the president's loyalists in the Department of Justice, as I said, some of whom were his personal lawyers during these investigations, now are in the DOJ, and they will have the final say. I want to play just a little bit more about what the president said about this. Watch this.
With the country, it's interesting because I'm the one that makes the decision, right? And, that decision would have to go across my desk. And it's awfully strange to make a decision where I'm paying myself. In other words, did you ever have one of those cases where you have to decide how much you're paying yourself in damages? But I was damaged very greatly.
He just said a decision where I'm paying myself. Does the phrase conflict of interest even begin to cover this, David?
Yeah, and I would say the word graft. And I think what is so unsettling is kind of the cavalier attitude of the president engaging in graft publicly and suggesting that somehow it is not a significant and sober matter. Look, in my experience over the past several months, kind of being detached from some of the national politics, I will tell you this. I think a lot of this is absorbed through kind of 3 different lenses or 3 different camps. There are the loyalists who will defend the president regardless of his decisions, even when it's pure and open graft. And then there are those who simply see it as graft, who are showing up at the No Kings rally saying, listen, we are stretching our Constitution. We are breaking our democracy because this is going unchecked. And then there is kind of the unsettled middle that just is exhausted by all of this. And I think part of this needs to lay at the feet of the Congress, who has oversight authority. We are here because there is a Congress that has collapsed as well. I actually think there are enough people, and listen, you can look at the protagonist or the cheerleader of Donald Trump and Scott Jennings, who on another network tonight said this is even too far for him, that Donald Trump should wait and say maybe after my administration DOJ should handle this. This is a clear conflict of interest. This is clear graft. And I think most Americans see it as such. Donald Trump doesn't, and so he'll be judged based on that.
And David, as long as we're sort of in this topic of is this a bridge too far? When it comes to this ballroom that they're building in the White House, the president's saying it's going to be my money, and they're getting donors, many of whom are companies, to pony up the $250 million. Is that not a conflict of interest? Doesn't that make one wonder, what are these companies getting in return?
It is. Look, it is a disrespect for the deep traditions of the White House, the historical association that has some guidance for its architecture, for the solemnity of the White House itself. But I think it also is a let them eat cake moment when the government is shut down and thousands of federal workers are going without pay, when health care hangs in the balance for millions of families, over 1 million Floridians who are due to lose their health care because of the government shutdown, because of the lack of extension of ACA subsidies, because of the cuts to Medicaid. At that moment, Donald Trump is suggesting that he wants a ballroom that will rival Versailles and other palaces around the world, because in America he wants to be seen as a king. This is the let them eat cake moment for Donald Trump. Is it enough? We'll see. But it also then brings in just the raw grift and graft of money in politics. Look, this is an area where I made a big journey from money as speech in politics to the public financing of campaigns. The swamp is the swamp. Donald Trump is the king of that swamp right now, and he is using it for maximum leverage.
Sam, that's exactly what I want to talk about. In Trump's first term, it was all about draining the swamp. So from a political perspective, from Donald Trump's base, whether we are talking about the business community. And I spent a lot of last week with a lot of business leaders who are basically like, listen, you got to pay to play, but we're happy to be in the White House. And they are. So they are the same people who are paying for this ballroom and the same people who are looking the other way when he's demanding $230 million be paid to him. How is this America First with Trump's actual base? Is he banking that they just don't know that this is happening? Because none of this touches what they voted him in for.
Yeah, no, it's brazen and grotesque. It is definitely not American first. You can extend that to the bailing out of Argentina, which is not going particularly well, by the way. And it's indicative of a president who doesn't care anymore, who believes that he's impervious to political gravity, that he can get away with this stuff because, frankly, as David noted, the congressional Republicans have not, said no, ever. And frankly, because a lot of institutions have given in fairly easily. When the president says to law firms, you have to pony up and do pro bono work for me, or I'm going to cut you off from government buildings, and then they say, sure, that just invites more efforts to force more capitulation. And that is directly tied to what we're seeing right now. It creates a cockiness that allows you to go through with a $250 million renovation of the White House while the government's shut down, while nutrition help is being cut off starting in a week, while people's healthcare premiums are going up. And frankly, and I'm not totally convinced myself on this point, it does suggest that Trump does actually see himself as a lame duck. That he, for all this kind of weird talk about, well, I may run in 2028, that he's not going to, because the decisions he's making now are clearly not savvy political considerations. And frankly, there's more than enough anecdotal evidence at this juncture to suggest that they're really pissing off portions of his base.